So my circumcision experience at 38 years old. The reason why I'm doing this video, because I didn't really want to do one because it's kind of embarrassing and kind of private, but I know that the information is necessary because I used it for myself. I needed to find out information before I went along with my procedure, so I'm assuming there's other people out there that are going through the same struggle. You want some questions answered, some experiences you might want to be able to relate to. So I got circumcised last week, Thursday, and today's Monday. And I'm actually just getting off work, so I went back to work today. I want to tell you about my experience just so you can have some type of reference or something to compare to if you're thinking about doing a circumcision yourself. Because this shit is stressful and scary as hell. And if you don't know what to expect, it's even more scary and more stressful. So I'm going to kind of explain to you what I did, what was good, what was painful, what was scary, just what my experience was like. Right? So I researched as much as I can on this topic because, I'm chopping my dick off. So I wanted to make sure I was chopping it off in the best way possible. So I started doing research, and initially I decided to go with the traditional surgical method with stitches and so forth. That operation, from what I researched, usually takes from about 40 minutes to an hour and a half or somewhere in between that. And it's a lengthy procedure mainly because of the stitching, I believe. After the surgery's done and you do all the cutting of the foreskin, then you have to do stitching and so forth, and it's a little bit longer of an operating process. The healing and recovery apparently is 4 to 6 weeks, which is what they say about most methods of circumcision, or at least 4 to 6 weeks before you can do strenuous and sexual activities. So I chose the Shang ring, something developed in China. They did clinical studies in a few countries in Africa, and the results were overwhelmingly good. Less procedural time. So the Shang ring circumcision procedure takes about 10 minutes max. So you're in and out of the operating room a lot quicker. Mine was done with a local anesthesia, so I didn't have to go to sleep or anything. It was a local anesthesia, and I'll explain to you about the pain for that and about getting needles in your doodle. It sounds pretty scary. So the Shang ring also doesn't involve any stitches. It's actually a ring, an inner ring, that goes on the inside of your foreskin, and then an outer ring that clamps on top of the inner ring, but on the outside of your foreskin. If that makes sense. So one ring inside of your foreskin, and then another ring on top of that, on the outside of your foreskin. And pretty much the skin in between that is where the cut is made. And after it's clamped in place, it's pretty much, I don't know what the word is because I'm not a doctor. It's closing the wound together between the two clamps of plastic. So instead of having stitches to seal your wound or your incision, it's clamped. So that way there is no stitches. Basically the cut is already sealed the second you put it on, the Shang ring. So I was pretty happy with hearing that I didn't have to deal with stitches and, stitches getting stuck to my drawers or my underwear, or stitches falling out, or any stitches in general I just didn't want to deal with. The Shang ring, you clip it on, you cut the skin off, and then about a week later, you take the Shang ring off, or you can wait like 2 or 3 weeks and the Shang ring will just fall off by itself. So I chose the Shang ring so I can avoid the stitches and avoid the long procedure of knowing that my dick is getting stitched. Because, yeah. Okay, so Shang ring procedure is what I did. Am I glad I chose the Shang ring? I don't know any other methods. I've never experienced it before, so I'm happy with the Shang ring. It wasn't too painful, and I'm going to tell you a bit about that experience right now. So let's talk about the whole consultation towards the operation, because I was in the clinic for maybe 3 to 4 hours, but most of that was not operating. The first hour would have been of consultation and preparing for the operation. So the reason why, and just for the record, I was freaking the fuck out. I was scared as shit. I was trying to make up all types of excuses in my head to not get the operation done, even though I needed it done and I wanted it to be done. And I was just scared as shit. Whether the surgery was going to be painful or just the local anesthesia, getting injections into your dick is going to be painful. I was scared of all that shit. I didn't want none of it. So the way my actual procedure went was pretty smooth and it was good. And it wasn't as painful as I was expecting. So that's a good note. So how it worked was that after being examined by my doctor, they gave me a numbing cream. I'm not sure if it's lidocaine or something like this, a numbing cream. And they rubbed it all over me, all over my jewels and then I had to wait for about 20, 30 minutes for it to kick in. And then once I was numb, I was ready for the procedure and the operation. So 30 minutes later, I was completely numb. I couldn't feel anything. I had to look to make sure it was still there. And to my liking, it was still there. So I got brought into the operation room. I sat on the table, and the doctor came in shortly, and then we discussed the needles that was about to get stuck into my penis, the part that I thought I was going to die or at least cry for. And this is how it went. So that numbing cream that they put actually worked really well. And I honestly did not feel any pain from any of the injections that was used to numb my penis with the anesthesia. So, I'll be honest, there was a lot of needles, and one of them looked long. It could have been the same needle the whole time, but the angle that I looked at it made it like 6 times longer, just in my head. And I probably got about 7, maybe 6, maybe 8 injections, all of my penis. And he started at the base. I think it's called a penile nerve block or something like that. And then he just kind of went around the base, one here, one there, one here, one there, one there. But honestly, fellas, I know you're scared of the needles, but this didn't hurt. And I ain't trying to be a tough guy and saying I can take pain, blah, 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 blah. I don't like needles, especially knowing the needle's going in my dick. No thanks. This shit didn't hurt. Didn't hurt at all. Whatever numbing cream they used, I was numb. I didn't feel it. Maybe a pinch, not even a pinch. More like a little bit of a cool or a little bit of a warming, depending on which needle he was giving. But it wasn't hurting. I was cool. I was able to look at that. So once he gave me about 7 or 6 or 8 or 9 or however many needles he gave me, then it was pretty much time. I was pretty much numb in about 20 minutes later, and I was ready to go. So I laid down, I felt, and I couldn't feel anything. And as far as the whole putting the ring on and doing the clamp, I didn't want to see it. I just didn't want to look. That was my choice. Some people like to look. Some people want to close their eyes. I didn't want to look. I just let the doctor handle his business. What I did look was the line that he drew first to make sure that I felt like it was even. It was even to me. I was happy with the line. And then once he put the ring on, the inner ring, I didn't look for the outer ring. I pretty much looked up at the sky, and he just spoke to me calmly. And he went to basically apply the Shang ring to the outside of my foreskin. And under my foreskin was the inner ring. So on top, he put the outer ring. And this I felt. I felt this more than I felt the needles for sure. The needles didn't feel like anything. So the most pain so far during this whole procedure was him actually clamping the ring on top of my penis onto the inner ring, if that makes sense. You know, you got to go to YouTube and watch videos on how they do the actual Shang ring procedure. It's pretty simple. It's pretty quick. Honestly, I think I can do it now, you know. But anyway, as he clamped on the ring, it felt a bit of a burning, stinging pressure. I would say maybe a 3 to 4 out of 10. And then after about 60 seconds, like literally 1 minute, because I tried to count to 60 while he did this, and that initial 3 to 4 pain dropped back down to a 1 to almost nothing pain. And then that was it. The operation was done. So once he clamped the ring, then he proceeded to cut off my foreskin, which I didn't want to see no parts of. I didn't want to look or have anything to do with that. So I didn't look. I just waited till he was finished. And then they put a bandage around it, bandaged me up with some Vaseline, and then they told me to go wait in like another waiting area just to make sure everything was all cool after the operation. And I can honestly say immediately after the operation, I felt nothing. There was no pain. I was numb. I wasn't tripping. I was smooth. I was calm. I was actually super happy that it went the way it did, because I was expecting a lot worse. I thought, you know, blood was going to shoot into my eyes and on the ceiling, and, you know, I wasn't sure what was going to happen. I thought maybe he was going to accidentally, you know, chop my whole dick off. And if that would have happened, I would have said, just cut my throat and finish the job. I'm done. That's it. Get rid of me. But it went smooth. I waited in the waiting room for about 30 minutes, and then they came and checked on me, asked me some questions, made sure I was prepared to go home and rest. And that's what I did. It was fine. The whole operation, I would say, was not painful. It was not painful. And if I didn't do it,